So the Motorola Razr Plus Geekbench scores have leaked, and they're not really that surprising. So starting off right away, this is of course the Motorola Razr Plus 2023. There's two different iterations. There's the Plus model and the Lite model. The Lite model is of course going to be way cheaper than the Plus model, but this is their top premium model. Now if you compare it to the Z Flip 5 and the Z Fold 5, it is not really that comparable at all, but there's a reason why it makes sense. So right here we have the Flip 5, which has, of course, 6.86 gigabytes of RAM, because we know it's going to have 8 gigabytes of RAM, so whenever, like I said, the RAM size is always a little bit less when it Geekbenching it. And then right here we have 10.75, which of course is the Z Fold 5, and that of course is because Z Fold 5 will have 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now, don't ask me why the Z Flip 5 tested better in Geekbench than the Z Fold 5. We don't know why that's the case. That is just a unsolved mystery we will never simply find out. With that being said, though, why is it so much better than the Motorola phone? I mean, if you look at the single core score, it's plus 300 on single core, and then for multi-core, it's around 1200 better. So why is that the case? Well, the reason why that's the case is because Motorola is releasing their phone with the Snapdragon Gen 1 processing chip, not the Gen 2. The Gen 2 is a lot more powerful and, of course, does give a lot more, power in every punch. And that is why we are seeing a lot less Geekbench scores with the Gen 1 chip versus Gen 2 chip. So that's really the major difference here. Is that if this had a Gen 1 chip, we would see a lot more similar scores. But because it's the Gen 2 chip, the scores are light years better, a lot better, right? Because of that said reason. Now, I do not believe it tells you on here. It doesn't tell you on here that it's a Gen 2. And it doesn't tell you on here it's Gen 1. So I don't think Geekbench actually goes into that part. But it does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's still a very fast phone overall wise. Base frequency 2 gigahertz, and then for this one the base frequency is also 2.02 gigahertz. So same exact frequency, same exact everything else. It just really comes down to the Snapdragon Gen 1 versus Gen 2, and having the new one is definitely going to help it. But again, having the new one also keeps the price tag a little bit more expensive. So it depends on what you want to go for. Do you want to go for more power, higher price, or do you want to go for lower price but less power? In all honesty, you're probably not going to tell too much of a difference of day-to-day operations between the Motorola Razr Plus and the Galaxy Z Flip 5. At the end of the day, now if you are gaming, if you are using this as a workhorse device, then yeah, you're probably going to want to go with the Galaxy Z Flip 5 over the Motorola. But for somebody who's just using this as an everyday phone, just to have, maybe to make calls on, surf the web on, stuff like that, you're not really going to see a huge difference. So if you are thinking about picking up, let's say, for example, one of these two phones, it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't pick up the Motorola because it's not as powerful as the Z Flip 5. No, you're going to have great results with either phone you pick up, depending on whichever one suits you. Now, of course, both these phones, though, outside of the Gen 1, Gen 2, are going to be very identical. We're going to see probably a little bit more features on the Z Flip 5 when it comes to waterproofness, when it comes to screen durability, when it comes to less of a crease. But everything else should be very similar. Both going to have really good cameras. Both are going to have huge outside displays. And both of them are going to have 120 hertz across the board. So you're going to see very similar stats across the board too. In my personal opinion, I probably recommend going with the Z Flip 5. Just because of the fact you're getting everything plus. It's ironically enough because the Motorola Plus. You get everything plus what the Motorola gives you. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I don't really see the point of going Motorola at this point. Unless you go with the Lite model. If you go with the Lite model, I understand completely. The Lite model is going to be giving you everything you want in a cup of tea at a very discounted, budgety price. And that's why, again, if you are going Motorola and you say, hey, listen, I'm just going for the Lite model because I want to have everything, discounted, then that makes sense. But for the Plus model, I probably recommend just going with the Galaxy Z Flip 5, especially after these Geekbench scores released. it's definitely almost light years difference between the two ones, between the Z Flip 5 and the Motorola Plus. But guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.